morning. Sing a new song, sing a new song, sing a new song. Let your heart ring with praise, and every single morning smile into a new day. Sing a new song. Let your heart ring with praise, and every single morning laugh into a new day. Let your heart beat to reverie. Let your joy light the way. You can sing a love song into the new day. Let your heart beat to reverie. Let your joy light the way. You can sing a love song into each new day. Sing a new song. Let your heart ring with praise, and every single morning smile into the new day. Sing a new song. Let your heart ring with praise, and every single morning dance into the new day. Sing, la la, la la, sing, la 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 la, sing, la 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 la, sing, ha 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 ha, sing a new song. Let your heart ring with praise, and every single morning laugh into the new day. Sing a new song. Let your heart ring with praise, and every single morning smile into the new day.
So good morning again, everyone. I'm John Bell. I'll be your platform assistant here today at our Sunday service with Unity Center, DC. Our Zoom host today is Jan Smoot. Today we welcome back Reverend Cheryl Fair, who will deliver the message. We're very fortunate also to have as our musical guest the very talented Lea Morris. We've had the pleasure of hearing from Reverend Fair before, but I thought I would recap briefly some facts about her. She's an ordained Unity minister and a licensed Unity teacher. She was ordained by Unity Worldwide Ministries in 2022 and currently is the minister for Unity of Fredericksburg in Central Virginia. She has a passion for Unity principles and shares openly how using practical truth teachings have guided her through several exceptional life challenges. Cheryl is a Master of Fine Arts with a 35-year career in performing arts before shifting her focus to Unity. The title of Reverend Fair's talk today is Clearing the Path for New Beginnings. And now, please join me in an opening prayer. This is a prayer called, well, it's a poem, but I'm using it as a prayer. It's called The Ocean and the Fish by our friend, the Sufi poet, Rumi. Didn't I tell you? Do not go there, for I am your friend in this mirage of fading shadows. I am life without end. Even if you run in anger for 100,000 years, you will return to me at last. I am where the path clears. Didn't I tell you? I am the ocean, and you are the fish. Don't go to the dry land. I am the only water you could wish. Didn't I tell you? Don't be fooled by the world's design. I am the painter of your joy, the artist of the divine. Didn't I tell you? Don't fly like a bird to the snare. Come back to me. I am your wings. I am the power of the air. Didn't I tell you? They will rob you and leave you cold. But I am the fire, the warmth of your soul, as I foretold. If you are the lamp of the heart, you know where to roam. And if you seek the divine, know that I am your home. Amen.
Shedding our skin so we can grow again. We're shedding our skin so we can grow again. First we breathe out, then we breathe in. This is all that we are, will be and have been. Shedding our skin so we can grow again. You want to sing that with me? Shedding our skin so we can grow again. At the day's break, learning to bend, and all that's been torn also may mend. Okay, once again, let's sing. Shedding our skin. Shedding our skin so we can grow again. So we can grow again. One more time. Shedding our skin so we can grow again. When it's time to let go and let a day end, we are open once more to what may begin.
Oh, wonderful. What a wonderful lead in to some time with you all here today, my friends. Thank you so much for inviting me back. I want to start today with a story. And this is a story that I picked up on social media, because there are lots of good things on social media if you're looking in the right place, right? So this story is a story of a very stereotypical husband and wife. husband and wife living in a very modest home where when you stand in front of the kitchen sink, you can see out the back window and you can see into the little backyard and you can see the neighbor's little backyard as well. And the wife, when she's standing there, washing the dishes, frequently looks out and looks at the neighbor's laundry hanging in the backyard and just judges and comments. They have no idea how to do their laundry. She says to her husband, have you noticed? It's all gray looking and it's really actually streaked with dirt. It's just horrible. Well, this goes on a regular basis, but one day the wife is there at the kitchen sink and she's washing the dishes and she looks up and is amazed. Look, she calls her husband. It's like, look, their laundry actually looks clean. They finally figured out how to do their laundry. That must have been a ton of work. And the husband says, well, I don't know about that, but it sure was a ton of work to get that window clean. So you get it, friends. You get it, don't you? So my title for today could have been Clean Your Kitchen Window, but I didn't think that was, so I settled on something that sounded a little more spiritual, like clearing the path for new beginnings. But either way, it is all about change. And change is that one thing that we can count on in this lifetime, right? Is that things are going to change. Now, you may have recently experienced a change. So as we go through the talk this morning, you might be reflecting on that, or you may be anticipating a change in your life of some sort, or you might be in that space where you're feeling out of sorts, but you haven't figured out what something needs to give, something needs to change. Or you might be in that space of observing your life, observing the outer world, and really wanting something to change. However it is that you receive this talk today, it might be on a personal level, a spiritual level. You might be reflecting on a group that you are a part of, or you might be looking at the larger world. However it lands for you, I'd like to begin with a premise that if it's a good practice, particularly when we know some change is coming or we want some change, we're feeling that itch to change, that it's good practice for us to prepare for that, for us to take a look at the kitchen window of our consciousness and see what we might need to tidy up to prepare ourselves, prepare the path, clear the path for change. Because the more, as we all know, because we're all wise, aren't we? We all know that there are times when we hold on to the old way. And quoting an old Zen proverb, there are times when you need to let go or be dragged. So let's look at some ways that rather than being dragged, we can clear the path. We can work on tidying up the kitchen window so that we can be present with more clarity and help ourselves move through times of change with more ease and more grace. So we all know that in the early years of our lives as humans, we learn all kinds of good things to manage these human lives, right? We form beliefs in our early childhood, things that we learn from our family of origin, perhaps a church we attend, at school, our first jobs, our relationships. We take on lots of good things and maybe not so good things, right? So we might learn ways of being in the early phases of our lives that serve a certain purpose for a certain phase of our lives, but it just becomes a habit. And we forget until we get to a certain point of adulthood to kind of look at what we're doing, what our beliefs are, and ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Why do I believe that? Why, and there can become a time when those things that we took on in the young phases of our lives actually becomes baggage that we need to intentionally work with ourselves to cut loose our baggage. So part of the work of being adults is to do that inner work, to pause and witness what we're carrying in consciousness, realize that what we perceive through our dirty kitchen window might not be the reality of what our neighbors are doing. Their laundry was probably bright and shiny all along, wasn't it? So that's what we're talking about today, that kind of inner work of clearing the path. That's essential. It's an essential part of evolution, referring back to Leah's wonderful song, shedding the skin of the old beliefs, the old thoughts, so that we can move into the next phase in life. So I'm going to offer two approaches in particular and some spiritual practices to go with those. So let's just get going with that. So the first thing I would like to suggest, wherever you are with with change, whatever phase of change you're in, is pay attention to your feelings. Now, for some of us, that comes naturally, but for others, it takes some concentrated attention to pay attention to your feelings. Your feelings are like antenna, and they let you know, they kind of point to things that want attention, things that are out of alignment. So listen to what your feelings are showing you. Look beyond the outer facts of a situation to the feeling underneath. And ask yourself, why is this here? Am I feeling unseen? Am I feeling unheard, unworthy, unsafe? Is there an attitude of judgment present? Are your feelings wrapped around people shouldn't do that or people shouldn't say that? Pay attention. And one suggested practice, which many of us do, some of us might have tried it in the past, but you might want to try doing some journaling, because the process of paying attention and writing down is really powerful. And in this day and age, you may have heard reports going on that with all of the surge of digital media, particularly in schools with children, they're actually finding at this point that learning is not happening so well. And they're setting aside all the devices and going back to writing by hand. When was the last time you did that? Now, maybe you do it every day. If you do, then good for you. Then I'm just giving you some prompts that you can work with. But if you haven't tried it, perhaps find yourself an old, a little journal, get it off a discount shelf somewhere, or one that you bought a while ago, and write down what comes to you when you pay attention to your feelings around some situation involving change. And of course, notice your thoughts, particularly recurrent thoughts, those thoughts that pop up in your mind. Notice when the thought pops up in your mind around something, is it your voice or is it someone else's? Is it your teacher's voice, your grandmother's voice, the kid who picked on you, your old fling? What messages are popping up and where do they come from? Ask yourself, what's the belief that you're holding that's producing this thought? If you're holding a belief that I'm not good at this, and then you hear the confirmation of that from, oh, remember when so-and-so said, oh, you're not good at this. So it's like, just notice all of those things. And again, you might want to practice writing them down. this process of asking yourself questions and putting what comes into writing is really powerful. Here's a quote from Reverend Richard Rohr in Falling Upward. The first half of life is discovering the script. The second half is to actually write it and own it. So that's what we're talking about. Kind of that, when you're younger, you're kind of packing on all of the, like, this is how to do life. And then at a certain point, you need to unpack, right? So this is the process we're talking about. And this is a good way to clear the path. Now, on a spiritual level, for our spiritual practices, I'm sure you're Unity folks, so you have some kind of a daily practice. You might want to lean into your power of wisdom. And of course, that's one of the 12 powers that was presented by Unity founder Charles Fillmore. As you spend time in the stillness, open your mind and heart to that still small voice which is speaking truth in your consciousness. And create space to really listen to that as you've done your work, kind of unpacking all of the things that you don't need anymore, or however it is that this process shows up for you. So here's an affirmation that you could use as a part of this process that I'm talking about. I look within and guide my way using divine wisdom. I look within and guide my way using divine wisdom. So take a breath right here, my friends. Next up, I want to talk about another way to clear the path or clean the dirty window. And that is to look at stories that you carry about your life. We all have those stories, right? And very often these stories are kind of like bundles of thoughts and feelings and things that we remember, and there's some intensity to it, and our ego really identifies with these stories about who I am or what people did, or and we all of us carry these stories about things that happened in the past, things that we learned in the early years of our lives, and the interpretation of stories that we might have gotten from the adults in our lives when we were little of what this means and what this doesn't mean. But what's really interesting about these old stories is that stories are fluid. So over time, we change, and our stories can shift and change and reveal new lessons. Have you ever been in that moment where all of a sudden you look back on a story that's coming up from the past, but you're a different person now? You are wiser, you are more mature, and all of a sudden you can see it in a new way. And you go, oh, maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe it was like this. And you can continue to work with your stories. Have you ever had that experience with someone that you've known since childhood, or since the earlier days, so perhaps a sibling or a cousin or a neighbor or something, and you're talking about an event that happened way back when, and you realize that your version, your story of what was going on is totally different than theirs? They were sitting right next to you, but their experience is totally different. Have you ever had that? Having those conversations, particularly around challenging, prickledy stories, can be really healing if you can find a space to open up that conversation with a sibling, or with one, someone else who was present when this all whatever it was went down. It can be really healing to listen to how they saw things. Things can be so different depending on your birth order, depending on if you identify as a boy or a girl, or whatever it is that's going on in the situation. listening to someone else's version who was also there can just open ourselves up to, oh, wow, I'm not locked into this story for the rest of my life. I can work with it and shift it around so that it continues to inform and inspire me where I am right now. And of course, an essential part of clearing the path for new beginnings involves letting go of those old stories that no longer serve our highest good, whatever that might be for you. Here is a quote from Unity founder Charles Fillmore. We must learn to let go, to give up, to make room for the things we have prayed for and desired. Listen to that. We must learn to let go, to give up, to make room for the things we have prayed for and desired. So when it comes to change that you want to see happen in the world that are perhaps part of your prayers, have you done the first part of what Fillmore is talking about? Have you looked at the stories that you're carrying and looked at what you can let go to make space for something new? Things that might be hanging on in those stories, judgments about what's right and what's wrong. In that old story, well, it's wrong for somebody to treat someone that way. Well, isn't? Think about from their perspective. We might have attachments to particular outcomes. Say our story is about, oh, I worked so hard to get this and I didn't get that. Or, we have attachments, and those attachments might be things that want to be let go, and unspoken expectations. Like we have in our minds an idea of how things we want to go. We haven't said that, we haven't shared that, and then we're disappointed and we have never spoken. So all of these things are things that, might be holding on that we need to let go. So in Unity, as we all know, we work with releases and affirmations. So first, I'd like to offer you a release statement that you could practice when working with one of your stories. So here it is. I give no power to old stories of limitation and judgment. I give no power to old stories of limitation and judgment. So take a breath with that. All right, so we know in Unity practices that we always follow a release by affirming truth. And there are some steps to getting to that. So we want to affirm some truth. So here's a process. Whatever dynamics there are in the story that you're carrying, know and understand that you have the power to revise, rewrite. No longer be hung up in whatever the dynamics of that story is. You can shift it and change it because you've grown in wisdom and maturity. You have the capacity with your spiritual understanding to view others involved in the story through the lens of compassion. Those people that have always shown up as, the nemesis in the story, you can take some time and actually view them through the lens of compassion. Take the time to see the situation from their point of view rather than where you've always been from your point of view and your belief about what was wrong or right, and open your heart to understanding how things felt for them. Now, this again is a practice that might be supported well by doing some journaling, some creative writing, revising an old story. If you like to be creative with writing, you don't have to show it to anyone, so it can be as whatever you want it to be. And through that process, freeing yourself from entanglements that no longer serve your highest good. Here's a quote from an English author named Neil Gaiman. The one thing that you have that no one else has is you. Your voice, your mind, your story, your vision. So you have the power to work with that. Now, for those of you who like to have a scripture foundation for all of this, let's look at the words of Jesus from John 6:33. The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and life. Now, the way that we approach Jesus in unity is as our way shower, as demonstrating for us how to best do this human life. And so there is Jesus showing up saying, the words that I have spoken are spirit and life. So what that says, my friends, is that the words that you are speaking are spirit and life. So if you find yourself showing up with an old story that has a lot of nyeh, 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 oh, how sad, you are invigorating that with spirit and life. You are giving that energy. So this is a great opportunity for you to reflect on all of this and perhaps make a shift in the spirit and the life that you are giving to the words of the story of your life. So in your spiritual practice, one of the 12 powers I can suggest that you connect with, and this is your power of power, or the power of mastery, because you and you alone have that sovereign authority over your consciousness. No one else can hop in there and tell you what's right and wrong. You and you alone. And as you lean into your divine nature, see things through that spiritual lens, you can speak truth into those old stories and make a shift in how you will show up with change that happens in your life. So here is an affirmation to go along with that. I use my power of mastery to create my life experience. I use my power of mastery to create my life experience. So take a breath with that. And let's just do a little recap of what we've been talking about today. So whether it is change that has already happened, or change that you know is on the way, or you're feeling like something's got to give, something's got to change, or things that you really, really, really want to see change, ask yourself, what energy do I choose to bring to this process of change? None of us are victims here. We each have the power of mastery in our own lives, in our own consciousness. So we don't have to sit there and say, oh, look at this terrible thing, look at that terrible, look at that terrible. How do you want to show up in consciousness, in thoughts, in feelings, and then as that rolls out into your life, how do you choose to show up? So these practices we've been talking about can help you answer those questions. Do that important work that grown-ups do. Witness your feelings and your thoughts. Notice and be present. Maybe try some journaling. Look at those old stories when they show up. Revise, refresh, imagine new stories, knowing what you know now, opening yourself to spiritual understanding and compassion, letting go of those old wineskins so that when change comes along, we can be stepping into joyful opportunity as we clear the path, clean the kitchen window, for new beginnings. So that is it for my talk today. And I know we have some more wonderful music coming. As we move into a time of meditation together, I invite you to focus on the breath, breathing in and out with ease, settling into this moment. If you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed or just soften your gaze, expanding your awareness, imagining yourself moving through a phase of change, whether it's something that's already happened or something you know is coming, or that urge you feel for change, or that deep wish you have for something to change. When life presents challenges, just imagine yourself brushing them gently aside, like clearing cobwebs from the corners of your mind. Feel yourself responding from wisdom, from mastery, claiming that in whatever situation you have in mind, let me be wise. Let me be faithful. Let me be understanding. Let me be compassionate. Let me be loving. And let us move into a time in the stillness right here together. And as we begin to bring our attention back to the present moment, back to the breath in the body resting in the seat, let us lean into gratitude. So grateful for this time together to reflect and ask questions and seek opportunities for us to look at spiritual practices that help to cleanse and release. So grateful for the inner guidance that inspires us in our daily lives. And let us close this time together with another affirmation. And I like to put my hand right on my heart space when I say an affirmation so that it's anchored in the body, anchored in the heart space. So I'll say it once and then you all can repeat it with me a couple times at home. As I release and let go, I am divine and I am grateful. Say it with me. As I release and let go, I am divine and I am grateful. Let's say it one more time. As I release and let go, I am divine and I am grateful. So I am, and so I hold that for you all, my friends. Thank you so much.
So it is. This is a song you all may have heard before, sung by its composer, Pat Victor. You say your heart's been turned to stone. You say you wanna be left alone. You say love only made you weep and moan. But let me tell you something that you know in your bones. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is a power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say waiting for love takes too long. Dulls a sharp mind and weakens the strong. Well, you may be right, but you may be wrong. Love can make a mountain come tumbling down. 'Cause love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is a power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say your soul is like a dry riverbed. Stop waiting for the water long ago. You say you got to pray all night for the rain instead. Love will come just like a tidal wave over your head. 'Cause love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Only love has a power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Now a river washes over every woman and man. Put your feet in the gravel, get some mud in your hands. 'Cause nothing can stand against the love's command. Every boulder turns into a grain of sand. 'Cause love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down. Only love is a power, won't be stopped. I know love is the water that wears down. One more time together. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is a power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Thank you.
And now, if you'll join me in a closing prayer, this is called the Wisdom of Trees. When I feel at wit's end with all the baggage that clogs my life, I seek the wisdom of the trees. They do not cling to their leaves for more than one season. They put on fresh green apparel in the spring, and they drink in the sunlight all summer. In the fall, when fashions change, so do their leaves, taking on hues of red, orange, and gold. At winter's approach, the trees, sensing that the time has come to discard this season's garb, release their leaves, which dance in the breeze and spiral to the ground, carpeting the earth in many colors. The trees know that life consists of cycles. One thing begins, another thing ends, so that a new beginning can follow. They do not hold fast to the leaves from year to year, because they would be finding themselves holding tatters after the first year. Of what use is an old leaf? The trees make space for something new. They let go of the leaves after a season of faithful service, returning them to the soil, where the leaves can nourish teeming scores of other beings. In the new phase of life next year, the trees grow new leaves, and the cycle continues as it has for eons. A tree does not crush its leaves to its breast or hide them in a trunk for safekeeping. A tree throws them to the wind, and sleeps, so that in spring the path is clear for fresh new opportunities. I learn from the trees to treasure what I know now and then to let it fall away, so that there is a place for new treasures and glorious experiences to find me. In this way, I grow and mature like the trees, and the great flow of good continues in my life. Let us be like the trees, in the flow of life, making space always for something new and exciting. Let us be like the trees. Amen.